All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What It Takes to Win in the second half of the year. My name is Jackie Karras. I am an account executive on the platform team, and I will be your moderator today. And thank you all so much for joining us. We really look forward to having you all. All right. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, GroundTruth, we're an advertising company that leverages physical world data to build unique audiences and targeting solutions for marketers and businesses of all sizes. Data is a commodity, and GroundTruth visitation data is a proprietary. I think the simplest way to talk about location is simply put is searching for, a purse. I myself might go online. I might be searching for, say, a Louis Vuitton. Looking for a really big one, the newest style that's coming out, and I put it in my cart. I take out that credit card, and when I see that price tag, I second guess myself, like, do I really need this? So what I actually end up doing is I get in my car, go to TJ Maxx, find a very similar bag in style, but the price was way cheaper. So that in itself is, I think, the power of understanding visitation. So yes, I might have been searching for a luxury brand online, but in reality, I physically went to the store and purchased it there. So that's where, we think location can really help, drive successful campaigns. We're also accredited by MRC for location, place determination, and visit determination. We also have our owned and operated weather bug that provides us with proprietary first-party data. And with that said, to go to the next slide, I would like to welcome our two awesome panelists, Patrick Blanchard and Lauren Stockner. If you could both introduce yourselves, that would be excellent. And Lauren, let's start with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. Really happy to be here today. My name is Lauren Stockner. I am with Gravitational Marketing. I've been working for an agency for about 6 years in the digital marketing space specifically. And before that, I was in national sales for radio stations in Orlando, Miami, Tampa, and Jacksonville. So I'm really excited to be here today and to speak to you all about the future, the next few months of digital marketing and how we can help.
Awesome. And Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Patrick Blanchard. I'm VP of Interactive Marketing for Dynamic Marketing Systems. We're an Atlanta area based digital marketing, web development, brand experience firm, and really excited to be a part of this today. Got over a decade of experience in the digital agency space. Leading up to that, played guitar for a living for a long time, and happy to be here. So thank you for including me today.
Awesome. We were happy to have you both. And for everybody listening today, we definitely encourage you to use the chat function as well. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to send them our way, and we will do our best to answer them as best as possible. All right, so let's get started with our first question for you two. Now that we are in the midway point of the year, we're curious if you had to make any major pivots or to your initial plan strategies. If so, what were the major impacts that caused the need to switch things up? If not, what helped you in devising your strategies?
I think for us, really when we came into this year, we're really pushing hard. Our main focus as an agency is automotive advertising, which is why it leads itself so well to, location focused advertising and really sending those store visits. But as an agency, we really wanted to expand. We already know how to use the tools. We do a lot of Google, a lot of Facebook, a lot with GroundTruth, and we already know how to use the tools, but now we want to expand into different industries. So when we came into this year, we put together a whole marketing plan. And what we kind of had to do was evaluate the first half of the year compared to where we want to be the last half of the year. So we've had to pivot a lot with our strategies and our marketing. We were going to do some Google and Facebook and potentially some GroundTruth for ourselves to really get our agency's name out there. But what we realized is we might need more of that personal connection, that human touch. We need to be able to relate to our potential clients, so then they know kind of what we can do for them, and have that more human to human connection versus just advertising ourselves digitally. Because, as an agency, that's really where your strength lies, is in having that connection with your clients. And then, of course, helping them get their own clients.
That's a great answer. And we've kind of had similar discussions internally within our organization. They kind of started with the purpose of a rebrand, and I'm not gonna leak any information about that out, although it's been a painstaking process. But the bottom line is we grew really effectively for a long time by referral. And this year in Q1, we decided that we were going to go through a rebrand exercise, and that we were going to begin to eat our own dog food and advertise for ourselves. And so the process of where we started and where we ended up has definitely changed our tactics and our strategy for what will come in Q4, which is when our actual brand launch will occur. In tandem with that, though, it's changed for a lot of our clients too. And I'm going to use like Lauren's team is very involved in the automotive world. We're actually really big in building products, which may not seem nearly as sexy as a good-looking Corvette, but it's still a necessary type of marketing in the marketplace. And what we've realized through manufacturing capacity issues from an infrastructure standpoint, shipping and manufacturing a product and distributing that product out, that we had to take a step back from the consumer approach and really look at more of the B2B elements in building products. So look at the architects, designers, specifiers, builders, contractors that would be using the product, because just because there's a capacity problem from a manufacturing standpoint right now doesn't mean that in 12 or 18 months, when that product actually needs to be acquired for that project, that those same problems are going to still be front and center. We've also seen a lot of changes through some of the other industries we represent, like veterinary care, and our tactics and strategic direction from Q1 to now have changed, and it's very data driven, as it always has been. We're just having to peel back the layers and look at it differently, especially in light of how different it is now compared to last year, compared to the year before that, and then compared to the pre-pandemic period. So buying behaviors have changed. And so we as marketers have to leverage tools like GroundTruth, which we are very proud to be a supporter of, and Google and Facebook and everything else to make that happen.
Absolutely. And yes, with all the changes that's going on, have you seen any major shifts with client questions and needs that are coming your way?
We've definitely seen a shift in the questions coming from the clients. A lot of them, they are more into their digital marketing and their statistics, right? And so they have kind of that base knowledge there, whereas before you were dealing with clients who don't really understand. So everything you tell them is almost like a new thing. Well, what does CTR mean? What does click-through rate? Like, I don't understand. But now they kind of have that base understanding of like KPIs. So now for them, it's like, how is this working? How is this building on my ROI? Like, yeah, you tell me the click-through rate, but how does that help turn, this into a sale for me? Or like, what's my return on investment based on that click-through rate? So we've had to kind of switch the conversation. We talk a lot about, real metrics like conversions, like actual leads, actual store visits, those sort of things. So I feel like those client conversations have definitely changed, and we have to show more data and more numbers to support, everything that we're telling them.
I completely agree. And then in digital too, another big pivot to your point is that there's like an accountability difference. We've always strived to do the very best we could do for our clients, just to run badass campaigns and to celebrate and toast the wins and to learn from the hard-won misses. And the reality is yes, store visits. We're being held to standards now digitally, where a cost per lead is king, and not everything is e-commerce. So a lot of what we have to do for our clients now, more than ever in the past, and this has become even more front and center in the last 6 months for us, is what does it cost to get someone that views a building products ad or engages with us somehow online in a trackable way to enter a distributor location or to enter a vet clinic. And now we're kind of judging ourselves, and our clients are holding our hand to it, to keep cost per actual store visit relative. And then what are the trends associated with site engagement from all the different Google Tag Manager event tracking elements that we have in place, whether it be a form fill out, click to call, click to navigate, reserve your spot, product flyer download, whatever it is that we're tracking. How do we assign values to that to get to that ROI number and to continuously try to beat it? And if we don't, to have a really compelling reason why. And the fundamental fact is that in any digital marketing campaign, testing is key. Technology is cool. It's really cool. But at the end of the day, we're also advertising to human beings that have emotions and feelings and overarching worldviews. And we have to be able to communicate to them in an effective way, and then make sure we're leveraging the technological availability of information at the platform level to test ourselves and to push further and harder and run better campaigns.
Absolutely. And yes, there's certainly challenges with all of that. And today in this world of, COVID and supply chain issues, there is a lot going on, and to meet these KPIs is definitely very challenging. And we as consumers right now are absolutely feeling, the pressures of supply chains. So we'd love to know, what are you guys doing to combat it? Is there anything that's working? What's not working? So I'd love to hear more about your strategies behind that.
Yeah, I know, I don't know, as a person who's been working in the automotive industry for a while now, obviously with the pandemic, there was a huge chip shortage. So vehicles are very hard to come by. Even most consumers know this at this point. You're ordering vehicles 2 to 3 years out. So how do we keep our car dealers, how do we keep them having record months and record years, which has been happening, which you would think would be a bit of a surprise, but so many more people now want their own form of transportation just because of how much the pandemic disrupted their lives. So the demand for cars has just increased through the roof. And so car dealers have to rise to the challenge regardless of the chip shortage. So we're coming up with kind of creative ways, to maybe help them buy other people's cars, get that inventory, and they're all asking for this through digital marketing. So it's really up to us to strategize, okay, how can we help you through the chip shortage? How can we help you sell the cars that you don't necessarily have on the lot, but that you're going to have, in a year or so, or even, 6 months. So I think, because we're able to pull in the, hard KPIs like those conversion rates, and actual leads, we're able to help our car dealers just keep up their lead volume, by continually being there. Like, we run a lot of evergreen campaigns because we find that even when you don't think it's necessarily the hot season, people are still searching and they're still there. So, we're seeing those record months and record years, and we're seeing people add their names to lists to buy cars and commit to it, and put down a deposit or put down a payment for it, and then, get the car and the car dealer makes the gross amount or whatever. But I think it's just important to still capture that even with the supply chain disruptions, because, they're still going to need it at the end of the day. Like the supply chain is eventually it's either going to catch up or it's not, but the demand is not going to go away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what we see in building products is, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was really weird because all of a sudden we were stuck at home and we were working from home. And then we thought, I'm in my basement and I have a bar. And wouldn't it be cool if I had like a brick wall behind that bar? Let me go find this thin brick veneer that I could make my boss believe I'm sitting and actually diligently working, but really I'm putting mastic on a wall and putting brick up while on conference calls. And what we saw was a lot of DIY behavior start to influence how building products manufacturers reacted from a marketing standpoint. The knee jerk was, oh my God, everything's shutting down. Let's shut down a bunch of marketing campaigns and save some money and figure out what tomorrow holds, And what we realized is we went back to our clients and we said, well, no, we just got to shift our tactic. You can order things, you can pull up on a laydown yard and have it placed in your truck and not even have to talk to a human being or not engage with a human being really. And so we found that was front and center. And then again, as like I was saying earlier, these manufacturing challenges began to happen. And then it was like, okay, but we still have to be telling the story of these products that are going to be needed for commercial projects down the road. And the same in veterinary care. It's really interesting. Everybody, the world shut down and we were all home with our pets. And so we were more available to diagnose when a pet wasn't acting right, or, and maybe we weren't home a lot during the day and we wouldn't notice it. Then you get home and the kids are loud and you're trying to cook dinner and have a glass of wine and chill. And being at home, we saw with veterinary care that pivot occur. Through all of that, though, the position we've had to take as marketers and the messaging that we're putting out into the universe, i.e. ad campaigns, we've had to pivot 2 or 3 or 4 different times because of how engagement metrics have changed. But what we're seeing is less seasonality across the board. Building products that used to rock and roll from like March until June, and then it would slow down a little bit. And now we're just seeing these consistent trends of interest. And so how do we react to that? How do we prevent banner blindness? How do we prevent creative fatigue? And again, going back to testing, what's our landing page experience like? Are we creating the question through any ad campaign that we run that will generate the need for an answer? It's like marketing should not answer the question. You don't get any engagement that way. Create the question and then let your end user self-serve a little bit, and then let them enter further down into the funnel, whether they're buying a car. It's much easier for a car dealer, I would imagine, Lauren, to, for a consumer to show up and say, hey, I filled out this form, you reached out to me, I want the white F-150 that's sitting right over there. That's the truck that I've self-sold myself, as opposed to I might be in the market, I might not be, I may just kick some tires, I'm not sure. And so we're having to ride that wave of customer self-awareness and that need to self-sell, and then respond to that creatively. I hope that makes sense. It's a lot there, but
absolutely. And this industry, as we know, is ever changing, and we are riding those waves. And with that, new technology comes out and we all get excited about it because it helps solve some of our problems. So is there any, innovative tech that has recently come out or is on the horizon that you're excited about to include into your business plan?
I definitely think, I know it's not new, but I definitely think what GroundTruth does with the location-based marketing is huge. And I think it's a game changer because I think it's finally figured out, that location-based marketing, we can really narrow down, the store visit down to the specific lot, down to the specific store that they're entering. So I really think that that's been a huge game changer with location targeting. I do think that privacy is obviously a huge one, privacy and compliance. So I think there's a lot that digital marketers are doing right now to figure out, okay, how do we navigate the privacy and compliance laws that are being created, like CCPA, in California, and, what Apple's doing on their end with the tracking, and how do we still, navigate it to get our ideal target audience. We still need to find the right audience at the right time with the right message. And that's like the basics of marketing. But how do we navigate these restrictions that are kind of being placed? On the back end, we can't collect maybe necessarily the same amount of information we could get before, and with the new technologies. So I think there's definitely like a period of change that's happening in the next few months here where, Google's eliminating cookies next year. You know what I mean? Like, we're losing some of that tracking capability, but I really think something good is going to come out of it. And I think as digital marketers, we're going to be the ones to figure it out. Like, how do we track? How do we find the right audience? But like I said, I think location-based advertising is just extra important since we're losing some of those digital, like cookie advertising, capabilities that we've had.
Completely. And, to add to it, GA4, we've all gotten so accustomed to building dashboards based on this UA environment, where it's been really easy to drill down really deep and find exactly what you want because the data is so flat and filterable. And now with GA4, there's going to be a whole new school of data analytics from that perspective and how we report on things. That's number one. Two, the cookie-less thing is scary for a lot of people. Again, using location-based marketing, and I'll give you an example. It's really awesome to be able to go back to a building products manufacturer and say, okay, we're running these Google, direct response, pay-per-click ads, and we're running display and, retargeting and social advertising and whatever. All this is great, awesome. But we've also been tracking the number of individuals that receive impressions from our creative through our partnership with GroundTruth, and did you know that these distributors, we're actually sending X number of people that sell your product into their location? So not only are we able to say, hey, look, this is great information, but it's also, we can send that through from marketing down into their sales managers to say, you need to go talk to ABC distributor that's got 4 locations in the Midwest and tell them you want better floor space in the distributor location because we are sending traffic into that location and this is how much. It's not even a, hey, we're advertising for you. It's like, no, these are like legit, mobile devices that received impressions that entered the conversion zone, which is your location. And that's really amazing. And then, in combination with all that, we do a lot of work for banks and airlines. And the sheer amount of security, to Lauren's point, is like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be so buttoned up and so compliant in every single way contractually. And then we're having to let that inform our strategy down to the clients that are not bank and airline related, so that it's replicable. So it's not like we have rules over here for this client type and then other rules over here. We're trying to keep it really consistent. And it's really hard, but with the advances in technology and security and trackability outside of the cookie, we're just having to stay super smart and read a lot and watch a lot of GroundTruth webinars.
Love to hear that. And I know, this is not, super new and on the horizon, but CTV, everyone's talking about it. What excites you about it? What are you guys executing on? Is it helping you? Is it, going to be part of your media mix, maybe moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely think CTV, you're able to target more granularly than regular traditional television. We do some traditional advertising as well with our agency, and we've seen a drop off of, some of the media spend. They're pushing it more towards digital, and CTV is a digital product. So we're seeing that kind of like change in the marketing mix of, not only what our dealers are asking, but also what we're recommending for our dealers too. We do a lot of radio. Radio is great. But I think TV is less of the impact that it once was. And I think with CTV, you're able to really get into that right household. And because it's grown so much, you're not seeing the same message over and over and over again, where before you get a lot of impressions, lower cost, but that's because the impressions are being served to the same people. Now you have a lot more people entering that market space, with their connected TVs, and you're seeing you can now reach a lot more people, still the same amount of impressions, but the reach is greater. So I think that it's a good mix now. And I know that, the ability to include a QR code, you get actual scannable results is huge. So I think it's definitely important, like as we move into the future, to, have CTV on your radar and add it into the marketing mix.
I completely agree. And there are some threats with it for us in that there's that merge of television and digital. They've been like traditional out of home and digital have been kept so separate unless you're Madison Avenue 400 person marketing agency, in which there are some overlaps. For us, we're predominantly digital. Okay. And so there's been some adoption problems. However, it's really easy to go to clients and say, but look at the cost. So if you sign an insertion order for a billboard or a radio spot. Now, I think for car dealerships, it's different. You want to capitalize on people when they're in their car, right? But for a lot of the brands that we represent, it's so affordable to be not bound to some big 90-day insertion order, and to be able to run a campaign and test it and see how it works on QR code, the layering technology. You've actually got a trackable method now, whereas it used to be impression based. And if you used a vanity URL, then you had to rely on an end user to not be 6 beers into the Braves game when they see the ad, and maybe not engage the way you want them to. And so there's a lot of really great technology that comes with it. Adoption's been a little interesting, but we're still working through that and are really excited to continue to expand into that. But again, being that it's affordable, trackable, and that you can be more reactive with it is super awesome. And in using connected television technology in my own home, being able to see the types of brands that are advertised to my household is really a testament to the, you know, segmentation that we belong to between our whole family. It's like pretty contextually relevant. So it's been really cool to see how granular, to Lauren's point, the technology is.
Absolutely. And now beyond just brand awareness, you can add in QR codes, scan it, and now that's an extra, you know, KPI that can be added to your reporting.
Absolutely.
And we kind of alluded to this previously, but vanity metrics, you know, like click-through rates, clicks. It seems like there's kind of a shift going from those metrics to conversions. Are your clients really pushing you to get those conversion metrics? You know, how tightly tied to those conversion metrics are they? And do you think that vanity metrics are kind of now taking a back seat?
I think it's been that way in the automotive industry for a while because we're just so lead focused, you know, where the goal is to get them a name, phone number, email. So that is a straight conversion. You know, once you get that lead conversion, I mean, we see conversion rates in the 35% range, which is really high. You know, but like I said, this is automotive versus other industries you're looking at where conversion rates can be under like that 10%. So I think for automotive car dealers, it's very important. You know, they're looking at the number of leads that come in per month, the conversion rate of those leads. And then we even go track all the way down to the solds. So we have our car dealers send us a sold list every month and we match back the number of Google or Facebook leads that have matched to an actual sold. So we can really track that ROI and get like deep into, okay, are you spending the right amount? You're getting all the leads, but you're not necessarily closing them. Maybe their close rate is pretty low. So, you know, what's happening in the funnel, you know, between when you're getting the lead and when you're trying to close them. So it's more than just, you know, oh, click-through rate, impressions. Yeah. I mean, I still think those are important metrics to look at when you're like diagnosing issues. But I think when you're reporting to the client and making sure that the client, you know, is understanding like the impact of their campaigns, that their digital campaigns are having an actual physical real life impact on the bottom line of their business. I think that's the most powerful thing you can show a client, you know, and it also like prescribes them to loyalty with you because they're like, okay, like, oh, hey, you know what? I can show you that you had a bad month and I will be honest and upfront and let you know, like, you know, KPIs weren't there. It's not looking that great. Like, what can we do to increase the conversion rate, increase your leads, you know, and then get those leads back into solds, you know, all for the right ROI for your business. So I definitely think it's important. I think vanity metrics, we still need to keep an eye on just for optimization's sake, you know, and Google and Facebook and, you know, GroundTruth, we still use those. You know, we still like to report on them. They're important. How many eyes are on the ads? How many people did you reach? That sort of thing. But I really do think we're moving in the direction of where digital marketing has to be able to prove ROI.
I agree. And, you know, it's interesting about it. That's a big differentiator between a lot of the industries that we've worked in over the years, that we don't have a lot of experience in automotive, which is why I think this panel is brilliant because I'm learning a lot as well. The interesting thing about it is it's like my dad used to say when I would come home with some jacked up haircut because I was a wannabe rock and roller, you know, he would say, son, you don't know how you look till you get your picture took. And I've always kind of like sorry, I was raised in East Georgia, you know, but I've always tried to translate that to data analytics and trackability of campaign performance. And a lot of the clients that come to us, it's almost shocking that there are still agencies that really try to hang on to, but look how many eyeballs saw your ads and look how much click activity we got you. And this one thing, this form fill out, you know, we got you, you know, this number of those. And it's like, but wait a minute, we start looking at it at the beginning of any client engagement, we realize there's no real correlation between their, you know, CRM and their campaign leads. And they're not scoring them from digital. And they're not, you know, and look, I understand that change management and adoption are like really hard in corporations. Okay, I get it. But it's like, wait a minute, your sales team isn't even really documenting anything in here to tell us the quality of the lead. So what we've found is by increasing the number of things that we're willing to track, going to the client and saying, look, marketing department, you're going to have to get sales on the phone, like your national sales manager on the phone. I need 15 minutes. I need to understand what average transaction values are. I need to understand who they believe their three segments are, their customer profiles. What are the literary personas that inform us as marketers who we're talking to? Because I'm going to talk to my 13-year-old differently than I'm going to talk to my wife or my dad. And so, how do we kind of segment everything out and then track true conversions back to, albeit possibly an arbitrary number because you're dealing with averages, but back to a number that we can say, okay, have we won or not? And what is our baseline? And we always recommend test campaigns. And we say, look, 60 to 90 days, we're going to know a lot about your business. There's just not a lot of history here because you've relied on clicks and impressions and one conversion type for years. We want to elevate the experience that our clients have. We want to build them, tap clicks dashboards, or if they're really into Google Data Studio, build out those tools and use API connection software for connecting everything possible to put any kind of engagement back into one singular dashboard where they can see the where, the age, the gender, the in-market segmentation, the categorizations that we have at our disposal, even from solutions like GroundTruth, to be able to tell them, here's who you're talking to, here's where you're most effective, here's where your marketing campaigns are driving the greatest ROI for you, and not just look at it top level down, but look at it in a very singular and cylindrical kind of way where we can make recommendations on things like ad creative, messaging, offers. It's kind of like, when I opened up my first checking account, I got a free toaster at the bank. It's like, where's the free toaster? What are we tracking that truly suggests a full conversion? In automotive, it seems a lot more granular because there is all of that sales CRM data that has lead source and all of that. We're still having to educate clients on that and why it's important. And that's really interesting to me. You got these big corporations and you're still having to go, wait a minute, don't spend any money yet. Let's figure out the it first and then test to that. And so to me, that's super important.
No, I love that. I love that you look at, the bigger picture. There's so much to it. And even like you said, it takes like 60 to 90 days to really understand your business and how you can help them. Not just, a 2-day window you're advertising, you're not really going to fully understand what you got out of that. So that was really awesome. And I learned a lot from that as well. And as we're heading into Q3, Q4, are there, any changes that you guys that you've learned from Q1, Q2 that you're going to implement moving forward?
I think for our clients, Q3, the kind of that like back to school is what I call it, kind of season is huge for automotive. We tend to see a lot of record breaking months. It kind of happens, early in the spring and then again in the fall. And those are kind of like the two big seasons, regardless of, other trends happening. I mean, even during the pandemic, we're looking at year-over-year data, so we can see like, even during the pandemic, those were still, and everything shut down kind of like the spring of 2020. So even then they still had good months, which was like kind of crazy to me. It's just like how, this industry is just so massive and like people need their forms of transportation. So I think for Q3, like we really advise our clients, like, this is the wrong time to be making cuts, especially just because the search volume's up. More people are out and about. Now they're thinking about, okay, you got to take their kids back to school. How am I going to get them there? Do I have to drive them? That sort of thing. So, and then Q4, we kind of see like a taper off. It's like the holidays, right? And so the holidays huge for e-commerce. So you kind of have a harder time competing when you're not in that e-commerce space in Q4. I always laugh and like, oh, ramp up your spend. I'm like, not for this industry, automotive. Would not ramp up your spend in Q4 just because, you're bidding, you're paying more money to be in the auction. You're not necessarily what someone's searching for as much as Q3. So I think, at this point, like Q3, we do like also advise them, ramp up a little bit, take advantage of the next 3 months before we get into Q4 and things kind of slump. So you can really have that big Q3. And then if Q4 is not, where you want it to be, at least you're not trying to make up lost ground from Q4.
Yeah, and I'll kind of second all of that. The seasonality of it is key. So there's three components to my answer. The first one is for ourselves and our rebrand. We're having to really take a step back and go, okay, if a large percentage of corporations operate on a fiscal year of January 1 to December 31. From our own sales and marketing strategy perspective, like starting right now is when we need to be eating our own dog food, like I said earlier, and really picking segments like, employee recruitment campaign perfectionist, like whatever those little tidbit types of things that we've got case studies for are that we're really effective at: building products, veterinary care, telecom, travel, hospitality, the different industries that we represent more than others. Right now is when we have to be telling our story so that we have the opportunity for RFP and RFI season, which is Q3 and 4, for a January 1 launch with a new client. So that's component one. Component two is my answer now is different than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, that the Fed has raised interest rates, which is going to change home mortgage volume, home equity line qualification and volume, and things like that. So in building products world, we have to be very cognizant. Before we were supply chain focused, we've got to stay away from not stay away from the consumer. We have to tell our brand story. We have to be front and center, but we also have to really leverage that commercial work. Well, a lot of the commercial projects over the next 3 years, the financing and everything is already lined up for, and products being spec now that's going to be needed then. So we have to continue to shift that narrative over to the builders, contractors, architects, specifiers, and really be very deliberate in how we communicate to them in a multi-channel way. So whether it's GroundTruth email marketing that's supported by CRM data, direct response, trade publication, print, all of those things that we're going to tie together, we have to be very programmatic with it. And then the third component is things like veterinary care. When the cost of milk goes up and the cost of gasoline goes up, albeit probably seasonal. We go through this as a nation every 7 years. There's inflation followed by a recession, and it self-corrects over time. And it's always happened. It always will. And right now we're in one of those bubbles. So when you think about veterinary care, as an example, we're going to have to communicate to consumers to make them aware that, yeah, we may have to raise our prices in this industry, not marketing, but in veterinary care, to support the inflated costs that we have from an operations standpoint. However, these are the ways we want to help you care for your pet. So offers may shift from, a free first exam to wellness plans, because I have a yellow lab named Holly that thinks she's human and thinks she's a lap dog, but she weighs 75 pounds. But when something goes wrong with her and we go to the vet, it's a $350 situation, no matter what, right? Well, for a lot of households, that's tough to do randomly without warning. And it's like children and dogs, they get sick at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. It's never during the week. So emergency care is expensive. So how do you leverage that, and it's so a lot of what we're going to be having to communicate, and a lot of our targeting and our audience segmentation is going to be driven based on the condition that the consumer is currently in, and then how we speak to that. And that's going to be a pivot. Now those three scenarios are all components that have shifted in 2 weeks, and they're going to shift again, and we have to, as marketers, we have to be agile. And another thing coming up into the fall and winter, GroundTruth's ability to bid based on inclement weather is going to be huge. I'm sure you guys use it in the automotive world, and there are a lot of industries, especially retail, where we're going to have to be considerate of that as well. And begin as the weather gets weird or gets cold or whatever, after we all get done baking, because it's freaking hot everywhere right now, we're going to have a plan for using the inclement weather technology that's provided within the platform for sure. So I hope I covered everything there.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think we have one more question, then we'll open it up to Q&A. But now we have more than ever, shortages with jobs. We're trying to bring in new employees, and the turnover is very fast at the moment. So partnering with the right partners is so important today. So we'd love to know, what is the sign of a good partner? And how can partners best help agencies like yours set you up for success?
I think definitely kind of like what I touched upon earlier, the human to human connection, having that ability to have, conversations about stuff. Like you ask a question, the transparency is very important when it comes to, a partner, whether it's an agency partnering with a vendor or an agency partnering with a client. I think, it's important to have that two-way communication. You communicate when things go right and when things don't go so right. Like I think that is kind of a good sign, like a big sign of a good partner, basically, because they're willing to say, hey, we didn't do something right, or hey, we saw this issue, we're bringing it to your attention, here's how we solve it, versus just sitting back and letting like the agency or the client discover the issue. I think bringing that stuff to the forefront, just speaks volumes about a partner or an agency, and like having that, good partnership. I definitely think like barriers to entry as well. So, like, is it easy to, figure it out and kind of start the partnership, or is it really hard to start the partnership? Like, is it a lot of red tape you have to jump through, different contracts and things? So I think like that kind of like ease of use, like easy to get started. They help you along the way is very important, especially when it comes to like a vendor partnership. Because you're offering a service to your clients through another vendor. So there's a lot to manage. You're kind of playing like that middleman there as like an agency. Like when we work with GroundTruth, we work with GroundTruth and we offer their services to our clients, which we run through the self-service platform. So it's very important to us to have a good relationship, not only with our clients, but then also with like GroundTruth as our, agency partner and our vendor. And I think too, like a big, another, I guess, barrier to entry would be pricing. Like, you have to make sure that the agency, it's makes sense for the agency to work with the vendor versus the agency trying to figure it out on their own. Like that's like a big part of, creating these partnerships within the industry as well.
I completely agree. And to kind of stay on the ground truth train for a minute, it's really cool. I, I don't know how many agency people are on this call. Proverbially raise your hand if you've ever been on the phone with your Google rep because you have X amount of, tens of thousands. I mean, just lots of money under management every month with Google, and you get on the phone with them because you're getting a compliance error or there's something going on, you're not getting impressions from a campaign, and you just feel like they're reading from ticker tape answers, and you feel like you're the smartest person on the phone, but you're calling the platform. We've all dealt with those types of frustration. With GroundTruth, I love that I can, shoot Mary Claire. I'm gonna call her out and make fun of her for a minute. She's my rep with GroundTruth, but I love being able to reach out to her and go, hey, I got a boneheaded idea, and I want you to tell me what you think. I want to run this campaign, and I want to run ads in emergency vet clinics with historically long wait times in 3 markets in Florida. But if it's in the middle of a pandemic and I need to draw out the parking lot to be a part of the campaign structure, and I need to figure out a way to maximize my potential impressions based on 5 to 7 people at a time being in a geofence, how do I do that? Like, how can I make the campaign effective? And we ended up running this campaign and expanded it out to other markets for one of our clients, and it worked really well. It was fun. But it was like, she was like, that's not boneheaded at all. Let's take a look at, how we're going to make this happen. And she was so willing to help with us on that. And then we've had campaigns where we should have had hundreds of thousands of audience members, in a campaign, and we're looking at it and it's, a third of what it should be. And we know it is. And I'm like, what do we have wrong here? Even though we're using the self-serve platform, just like you are, Lauren, for a lot of our campaigns and clients, it's still really great to have that human to human connection. And it solidifies partnerships. The pricing and the ease of adoption breaks the barrier of entry with GroundTruth. But there's a lot of other platforms we use or we have used, technology platforms, not just ad platforms, that it takes a long time to get them onboarded. And then once they're onboarded, then you have to develop a process for onboarding employees to use it. So you have to document everything. And in a lot of cases, there's this great onboarding process and you've got a great account rep, and then you get passed over to Chad or whoever, who, responds in 48 hours, whether he needs to or not. And then it's like, okay, well, we're spending, all this money on this platform and I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting a response, and I've got a reporting issue for a dashboard or for whatever that I've got to show a client tomorrow. I need someone to respond to me. And then I end up on hold or in the chat queue. And that's very frustrating. And with GroundTruth, I feel like none of that exists. It's pretty quick, to the point. Let's solve the problem. And Mary Claire, again, I'm going to pick on her, has been awesome to be very available for us. And that's been great.
Thank you. We absolutely love to hear that. And again, if anyone ever has any questions, always feel free to reach out to your GT reps. We're always happy to dive into the platform and, answer any questions. And on the topic of questions, we have a couple that trickled into the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and read them out. So Stuart Slocum, question is, how do you integrate GroundTruth with Facebook and Google campaigns? I know Lauren or Patrick, if either one of you want to tackle that one.
So we actually run our GroundTruth campaign separate from our Google and Facebook. I know, we can do Facebook retargeting with GroundTruth Pixel. We have pixeled everything in case we want to run it. But for the way we run Facebook and Google is just a little different because, like I said, we're so lead focused. So we're really like pushing them into, name, phone number, and email, send it to the CRM for the, the automotive BDC to follow up on. So for us, we don't do as much integration, and then we run GroundTruth separately and we report on store visits. And then we look at the data like cohesively once we get all of it at the end of the month. So it's a little different for us. I don't know if Patrick, it's
the same for us. We keep it all channeled. To us, though, for a long time, you had your SEO strategy and you had your paid media strategy and your content marketing strategy and your social strategy and your paid strategy and your traditional. And we look at it as very much an ecosystem. And so what I like to do is have control of those independent channels where then I can blend the information and I can see in any way I want to splice it, where we're winning, where we're losing, where there's hemorrhaging. And it could be something as simple as a keyword in one market in Google Ads. But if I can save money there, I can allocate that to GroundTruth or to Facebook if it's a more effective use of that spend. And so we keep it all separate, but then we kind of create reporting spaghetti out of it where we can filter things and segment them out and understand. Because, let's face it, the creative that we're running in Facebook and Instagram may be performing great, but we may have to run something totally different from a geo perspective because in Facebook and Instagram, we might be getting a lot of on profile, on post, or on ad engagement, shares, likes, comments. There may be other types of engagement versus, the grand conversion type within GroundTruth is the store visit to me. We use UTM parameters and we track everything into GA and look at it from a campaign standpoint as well. But being able to take all of that information and sort it in a way that makes sense to us so that we can go tell the right story to our client that the data is informing, that then shifts the strategy. So we keep them separate, just like you do, but that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have another question from Caleb Soha, and Lauren, this one's for you. You touched on the automobile industry and finding leads even at this time. Besides targeting competitors, where are some great places to target and find leads?
Honestly, so we have like kind of a market by market approach. We're very, we focus on one market with one dealer in the market. So, and this is across the country, Canada, kind of like even Hawaii. I have a car dealer in Hawaii that I work with very closely. But because of our market by market approach, we're able to do more kind of like blanket targeting where we really narrow down the keywords. So like our biggest strategy is finding the right keywords, right? So we can really hit that right person. So we're able to get a lot of leads and have high conversion rates because we have the right message, and the right keywords. And we have more of that holistic market approach. So it's the one dealer and the one market running the specific message versus you get that, muddled message. And maybe you're trying to target almost too granularly sometimes, especially with automotive. Some people, they know what they want. Like Patrick said earlier, they want that white Ford F-150, right? There's no talking them into another car. But a lot of other people, they can be talked into different cars. You just have to have the right processes in place once they submit a lead. And I read a statistic and it was like something like automotive is so lead focused because they have the infrastructure with the BDC. We're able to get that lead, send it to the BDC, and then the BDC works it into a vehicle. Maybe they didn't think they wanted that vehicle initially, but down the road they ended up, very happy into the right vehicle that's right for them. So I think it's like a little bit different. I have done a lot of, different targeting, but I find we get the best results when we really focus in on, okay, what keyword are they searching to find this car dealer? Is it new? Is it used? What type of car dealer are they? And then of course, the messaging that goes along with that, just being consistent. Honestly, I don't see the sales events working as well as just consistent messaging across the board.
Awesome. Patrick, I don't know if you want to tack on to that or we go to the next.
Well, in the industries we serve, it's the same thing. How people behave based on their demographic, psychographic, financial scenario by DMA may be different. And so how we communicate across the board, it's very market specific.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have another one from Stuart here. How much CTV OTT are you using?
I would say we're using a little less just because we do a lot of radio with our clients. So I would say the adoption rate for CTV and OTT on the dealership side is a little less. It's a little harder to convince them to get into, having that video ready to go. But I think it's important, especially for other industries. And I know, Patrick, you probably use it a little more than we do on our end.
Yeah, especially in B2B, but it's not necessarily always through a platform. Sometimes it may be a component like a landing page experience or something like that. But the adoption on our side, again, like I was saying earlier, has been a little slower because of the nature of the type of clients that we represent. More traditional and digital methods of marketing and advertising have been channeled. But we're definitely getting a lot of interest in it and a lot of great questions are being asked. And so I foresee in the next 3 to 6 months, the amount that we engage in is going to increase.
That's awesome. We'll be here for it. And now we just have a shout out for you, Patrick. Are you from Pittsburgh? From one Pittsburgher to another, living in Georgia. Cheers. And that's from Michelle Delaney.
Michelle, I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I used to play music there a lot, and it was a really gritty, fun, funky town. I liked it a lot. So, I'm not a huge Steelers fan because I'm a Falcons fan. I like to watch my football team lose, apparently. But yeah, thank you for the shout out.
She said you have a Pittsburgh accent.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. I think that was it for all of the questions, unless anyone else has anyone they want to pop in quickly. Give it a minute. But if not, this was awesome. Lauren, Patrick, I know I myself learned so much from you both. So really, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and we look forward to having more webinars and we do have a survey that if anyone would love to fill out, we do learn a lot from those surveys, to find out new topics for webinars moving forward. So we hope to hear from you and thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Lauren, great chatting with you.
You too. Have a great day.